From the hallowed halls of the Epic Production Studios here in Red Bank, New Jersey, we are Infinity X, giving a stage and microphone to human excellence each and every single Tuesday in the never-ending pursuit, quite frankly, of giving you value, giving a stage and microphone to individuals, megapreneurs, people that are doing things in business verticals that you want to have exposure to, hearing their journey and seeing how you can rinse and repeat their strategies, merge ecosystems, and have the opportunity to build out a business for yourself based upon their track record of success, folks. As always, behind the camera, we have Danny Drew. Behind the scenes, we have Parker Russo, PJR Agency. Thank you and shout out to those boys. And tonight, folks, I am super excited because we're going to continue the focus on an area that is so important to people and everybody's talking about. I'm talking about real estate, I'm talking about interest rates, but I'm also talking about the journey of building out a business in that space and the strategic nature of what individuals go through each and every day and each and every year in what we've been presented to build out a platform, build out a business that is actually growing in a recessionary market. Tonight, folks, we are joined by Henry Eisenstein. Henry, how you doing tonight, brother?
Amazing. How are you?
I'm doing incredibly well, bro. Welcome to the stage. And why don't you share with the good folks out there a little bit about you, where you're from originally, where you grew up?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. So I'm born and raised in Jersey, grew up in Monmouth County.
Okay.
And, live a couple blocks from the studio.
You walked over here tonight.
That's right.
That's awesome. Right. That's awesome. Where'd you go to high school?
Freehold Borough.
Freehold Borough? Okay. Yep. All right. And what was it like for you growing up?
Listen, man, I wasn't that scholar that many people were. I barely graduated high school.
Oh, is that right?
And I knew that I didn't want to go to college, and my parents kind of forced me to go.
Okay.
So I went to Brookdale Community College, and wasn't but maybe a semester and a half before I dropped out.
Okay. And what was the logic behind them impressing on you? Hey, you're going to go to school. Like, you got to go. You're like, what was the rationale there?
I think that just like so many people grow up with the parents grow up thinking that this is the one way to do something.
Yep.
And, a lot of my family, except for my parents, my parents were in corporate America, but the rest of my family were attorneys, doctors, and entrepreneurs, and they all went to college. So everyone only knows one path,
Yep.
And I was actually one of the only people in my entire family, pretty crazy Jewish family, one of the first people in the family not to go to college, so I was like the black sheep.
Got it. And your folks were in corporate America. What did they do?
So my mom worked for AIG. Okay. Before the crash in 200008, like we were chatting about before. Yeah. And then my father actually was a school teacher.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. What grade?
He did a lot of math. Taught like middle school math.
That tells me so much, quite honestly. Because when you look at when the question that I asked you before about your folks wanting you to take those steps and go to school.
Sure. Schooling
is required because you came from an educator, right?
Yep.
You came, and then also your mom was working. Now, what did she do for AIG?
Back-end support manager.
Got it. And was that the only company that she worked for her whole career?
I think she did work for Sanofi, project management.
Got it. So their focal point was that you go through education, right? You graduate. You probably have some student loans, right? But you graduate, and then you go into the corporate workforce, and you invest into the 403b. You invest into the 401k. You work your way up. You punch the clock from 9 to 5, and that's what you're going to do for the next 40 years of your life. Then at 65, you're going to retire. Hopefully, live off Social Security and some money that you saved, right? Is that kind of
sounds familiar?
Yeah. But that wasn't for you, right?
Not at all.
So, folks, we are Infinity X, stage and microphone with human excellence. We're joined by Henry Eisenstein this evening. Am I pronouncing that correctly, by the way, Henry?
Eisenstein.
Okay. Eisenstein. Sorry about that, my brother.
Good. You're good.
Replay, weareinfinityx.com. We are Infinity X YouTube. So you went to Brookdale, right, for a semester and a half.
Yep.
Any value at all?
No. To be frank, listen, some people need it, some people don't. I went to a couple classes, and listen, I actually went for accounting.
Wow. Okay.
I went for accounting, and I love numbers, because my dad was a math teacher, so numbers made sense to me until I started throwing letters into it, and then it kind of made no sense. So I got into accounting, and what I realized quickly was that, I worked for a guy who changed my life. It was like the first person who ever believed in me. Listen, I was depressed and suicidal from a young age. I went through a lot of bullying and all that kind of stuff. So that kind of played a big role in not wanting to continue going to school. But the one thing that I took away from this guy was just like, it was never a question of did he go to school. It's just that his work ethic took his business to a whole different level. So I was never worried about my results at school. It was more, what my efforts could bring me.
That's incredible. Thank you for being so vulnerable with that.
Of course.
Do you mind if I play in that space?
Sure, let's talk about it. Absolutely.
Because, a topic as sensitive as bullying, is something that I highly respect. I mean, I have experience with that. I think to a degree, just about everybody has experience with that
Sure.
at
Some
one
way
point or
another.
another.
Yeah.
And it led you to the point where suicidal thoughts were even, something that might have been out there. Thank the good Lord that you didn't actually execute on that. But
I say it every day.
Dead serious. But
Yeah.
that really, really shaped your opinion of the educational system. But also, was it shaping your mindset around people in general, or what did that do from a mental, not only a mental perspective, but also from a standpoint of fight or flight type,
Yeah, look, it started for me at a young age. Like, I'm talking like 9. Like, I maybe 8, 9 years old, where I started being bullied. Self-esteem issues started rolling into. I remember having suicidal thoughts at around 9 years old, 10 years old, and really, really serious stuff. And listen, I'm a board member at CPC Behavioral Healthcare because of it. It's definitely led into a lot of beautiful things.
Folks, rewind that back one more time. Hold on. Repeat that one more time, Henry. God, that's so noble. Please.
So again, I'm a board member of CPC Behavioral Healthcare. Please check them out and support. I think people don't realize that how much really goes into supporting those in need.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to schooling, when it comes to higher levels of education and going through the kind of upbringing that I had, there was a bit of a correlation for me, thinking that schooling would just be more of this, and why would I want to pay, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars for a college that I would just have the same kind of experience as I had growing up. Yeah. But at the same time, it was more the fact that I knew my path was going to be different. I knew I didn't want a corporate job. My parents, God bless them, they gave me a lot of lessons, but the most important one was I didn't want to be in their shoes at 55.
Got it.
And, I was just paying attention as a young kid, and, listen, I grew up in upper middle class, 180, 200 grand a year combined income.
Yep.
We definitely did not have the things that we always wanted, kind of thing. They spent a lot of their money. They didn't save, and, no one really taught them the ways. And I something hit me when I was a young kid. I was like, listen, I'll listen to you guys about everything in the world except for finances and business.
Yeah.
And,
wow, that's so insightful at such a young age. That's so insightful to see
thank
that,
God. Thank God for it.
Yeah.
And that really shaped a big part of my outlook on life.
So God bless you for everything that you were able to overcome, and now what you're doing in that space. It's absolutely incredible. And it is. I want to get back onto your journey in a minute here, but I do want to play a little bit more in the bullying space because, again, you see it so consistently and so frequently in so many different, avenues, and we had a guy a couple of weeks back named Matt Boudreau, and Matt was talking about a different type of school and schooling system that he has created for his young heroes, is
That's
what
awesome.
he refers to them as, and their own little ecosystem. They manage and handle their own problems. But God, in the normal school districts and in what's happening in mainstream America, is it still as present as it was in years past? Because I remember it like it was yesterday. Is it still that present?
I think it's different. I think it's just different because back in the day, it's almost funny where kids getting picked on, kids getting beat up a little bit. Yeah. It was almost commoditized in the sense where it wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah. It was almost the norm. Yeah. And no one really I don't feel like bullying had the right it doesn't have the same connotation as it does today. It doesn't have the same weight. Back in the day, it was just how kind of things were. Yeah. And then as social media became more and more prevalent, I think that people younger and younger these days are becoming affected by different ways that is more emotional trauma than it is physical trauma. And it's also listen, it's almost like, you didn't like my picture. You're not, you're not
100%.
following me. And like,
Yeah.
I just think it starts at a much younger age now. I think that kids just, listen, I think that the people that these kids are following, the people that, the people like mentors that these kids have, I don't think they're being taught the right stuff at a young enough age. Because I think they're growing up way sooner in life. Like, I feel like I grew up so quickly.
100% agree with you on that.
Yeah.
And from a parental perspective, right? Are you a parent?
No.
Okay, so I am a parent. I'm a parent of an 18-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 4-year-old, right? Totally
Different worlds.
Different world with the 18-year-old than it is
Yeah.
with the 8-year-old. But the 8-year-old is concerned about who the hell's following her TikTok just as much as the 18-year-old is,
Yeah.
right? That is terrifying to me.
Seriously.
Right? So what if you had any advice for parents, right, that out there, telltale signs, things that they need to look at, things that they need to be aware of or conversations they have to have with their kids, what would that look like?
Teaching kids emotional intelligence at a young age and bringing in self-development at a young age. And because I think that it's like in my household, talking about your feelings was not like, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
And it's almost shunned, and it's like I'm having to teach my parents now how to do it.
Yeah.
And like I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on educating myself.
Ooh, we're gonna play in that space
And,
too, my brother.
different than most, right? And emotional intelligence is one of the most important factors of not just success, but just of life these days. And I feel like it's not being taught at all.
Who's somebody that you model after?
Model after, people like Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, Ed Milet, Patrick Bet-David.
Incredible.
Beautiful people.
Oh, yeah. And I assume that we're going to get deeper into that as your journey is going on. But I just wanted to thank you for just spending a couple of minutes on that, because I think it's a topic that is just so unbelievably relevant. And I think that more people need to be talking about it and focused upon it, because it can really shape the young hero, right, and the person that ultimately we're going to become. And so, folks, we are Infinity X, stage and microphone. This is Henry Eisenstein and Steen or Stein?
Stein,
got it.
It's German, man. It's German. Come
buddy.
on, super German.
But replay, we are InfinityX.com. We are Infinity X YouTube. So, Henry, you went, getting back to your schooling, right, getting back to your journey for a moment. So, semester and a half, accounting, and you met a guy that changed your life, right? Was it right at the point where you had made the decision that you did not want to go to school anymore? Like, what happened next?
Yeah, so one of the very first jobs, listen, I was a gamer for a long time.
Oh,
okay. I because of the bullying and everything like that, I kind of pushed into video games because it was a place where I wasn't me. People didn't see me; they just saw my results. It's sort of like why I got into business. People don't care what you look like. People don't care what you sound like, talk like, whatever. As long as if you're successful and have a lot of money, I mean, like that's your results speak for yourself.
Got it.
Right, and sort of the same thing as video games. You could, it doesn't matter what you look like, but your results speak for yourself.
Yeah.
So I was a huge gamer, and then I got into getting my first job because my parents trying to force me to do it. Busboy, and then I worked for a place called Pump It Up, and the guy who owned the business changed my life forever. Because he was like the first person ever who just believed in me, saw something bigger in me than I ever saw possible for myself.
And what was Pump It Up?
It's a kids' party place, bounce houses,
Awesome.
obstacles. Yeah,
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun, and
fantastic.
again, it was just like he was a father figure that I'd never had. He was like an older brother that I never had.
What was it about him?
Again, just the belief in me. Like no one had that. And again, like, I love my father. My dad and I are very close, and like it just wasn't like we didn't have conversations like this. I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth or come into a crazy amount of opportunities, and he definitely did his absolute best, and I'm forever grateful for it. And this person changed everything for me.
Incredible. Folks, by the way, if you have a question for Henry, please put it into the chat. Parker, if you could just monitor the chat for me, that would be incredible. But so this man believed in you. It sounds like this man gave you a little bit more of a stage and microphone.
I mean, kind of.
Tell me a little bit more.
More in the sense of like, I think he gave me the ability to believe in myself more than anything.
And give me an example, if you don't mind, because I think that that's one of the most powerful things that anybody can give to somebody.
Yeah, just belief, man. I mean, like, listen, like, I think that's just all sometimes somebody needs. Just like someone say, I believe in you. I think you can do it. I see something in you that maybe you don't see for yourself. And that was enough to spark something in me, because I would work 7 days a week, all day, every day, and I wouldn't ask for more money. I wasn't even on the clock half the time, but I just wanted to make him proud. And, I would show up days I didn't have work. I would didn't matter the hours. I just literally
Still
all I
right
cared
into
about
it.
was just making him proud.
It's incredible.
And by the time I was 20, I was managing 40 some odd employees and helping him run several franchises.
Wait. Hold on a second. By the time you were 20, you're managing 40 some odd employees?
Yep.
Inside, holy mackerel, brother.
Yeah. But again, like, listen, I dedicated my life to this guy, and like, I was blessed to do it at a young age. Started with him at, almost 18.
Yep.
So, by the time I was 20, 3.5, 4 years into it, I was helping him open franchises, managing stores,
okay, so you were helping him to manage stores and opening up franchises. So did he give you the education on the business aspect of the business itself, the accounting, the numbers, the finance, the strategy there? Tell me a little bit more there.
Yeah, I mean, I did a lot of more of the day-to-day.
Okay.
He did a lot of the accounting, but, I mean, he taught me everything I needed to know in order to be successful on it.
And so what happened next?
So, funny enough, I killed myself to get this position to start, basically running my own store. And my friend introduces me. I'm watching real estate shows, watching $1 Million Listing New York, all the same reality shows that we all watch. And my one friend hits me up and he says, like, hey, maybe we should go get our real estate licenses. And I'm working 100. Wow. Yeah, it's out of the blue, right?
Wow.
And I'm working 100 hours a week for this guy. And but I loved it.
I
loved it.
Love what you do, you never work a day.
But at this time, I was commuting like an hour and a half each way every day. Yeah. And again, it was my store. I treated it like my store. Yep. And but listen, I'm 20 years old, making $40,000 a year as a salary. I mean, and by the way, I mean, like, the businesses were doing over $1 million a year, and like I'm seeing that type of money come in, and then I'm being paid $40,000 a year, and all I wanted to be was a business owner. So the difference was here, I was a business operator, not a business owner, and it was a huge reality check. Because, like, look, between everything I was doing on the side or whatever, so I'd make like $70,000-$80,000 a year at 20, and I thought that was more money than I had ever imagined. And I remember the first check, it was just less than $1,400. It was like $1,399. Yeah. Right, for a 2-week check. It was more money than I've had seen ever, check to myself. Yep. And there were some moments that just really sparked something for me, and I'm like, I'm the kind of person where I'm like, if I make one check, I'm like, if I make that in a month, I'm like, I could do this in a week.
I could replicate this.
Yeah, I could replicate this and do it faster.
Yep.
So that gave me that idea, and it sparked into me. And then, but what ended up happening was within 90 days of getting this a promotion, I quit. I knew in my body that I had hit a ceiling. And I was like, this is not what I'm meant to be. This is not what I'm meant to do. Wow. There's so much more to this.
Okay. And
I quit before I even got my real estate license. And I studied night and day, because I suck at test taking. I just suck at it. And I actually failed the first test to get my license.
Yep.
By 2 points.
But who's counting? Right?
But who's counting?
I remember those days, by the way.
Seriously, man. Oh my God. But when I passed the second time, I was so excited, and got into real estate, and it was.
And when was this, by the way?
2015. It was a month before my 21st.
So you didn't have to deal with 2008 crash or any of that crap.
No.
Yeah, okay.
No.
Good.
No.
Okay. Yep.
And so I get into real estate. Knew I needed a mentor. Found this woman who was the only woman who, family friend of a friend kind of thing. She was doing like $400,000 or $500,000 a year selling real estate.
Okay.
And but there was one caveat to that. She did it in the foreclosure business. Massive amount of success in the foreclosure business, but basically she made her money evicting people from people's homes.
Got it.
Managing properties for the bank.
Got it.
And funny enough, now I'm an investor in a lot of these types of properties. I've bought, nearly 100 and change with investor partners and other people. So I didn't know what it was actually doing for me down the road, learning all this. Yep. But I made no money for the first 11 months. I made nothing. And I had saved up $30,000. I had no credit card debt. I was in a fantastic position at 20 years old to get into the business. And let's just say in about 10 months of being in the business, I was
right through it.
Dude, I was not only that, I was $30,000 in debt now.
Oh, yeah. Because you're spending on ads, you're spending on marketing.
I was doing all of it, and I never stopped spending the same amount of money. I was still living life the same way.
Love that.
Yeah, so first 10 months sucked.
Yep.
And
I love that, by the way.
Yeah.
Because that's what it takes. The grind is so real to build out a real business.
And it was so funny though, because like I had the right mindset going into it. I was like, listen, like I told this woman, she's like, I'm going to pay you $10 an hour, basically, without really explaining to me, making me her assistant. And I was like, no, I don't want $1 from you. I want 100% commission. I want to earn every single dollar.
That's incredible.
And
folks, are you listening to this, by the way? I mean, this is what grind really looks like.
And I mean, listen, it works with the right mentor.
Right.
You know, she wasn't the right one. So, long story short, with her, I quit in the 10th month.
Okay.
I ended up working with one client, and within 60 days, I had made about $30,000. And I was like, just like I said before, I am holding these checks, and I'm like, I can replicate this.
Yep.
And everything changed for me in that moment. I took my $30,000, I invested nearly all of it into a couple softwares I needed, coaching. Spent $10,000 on coaching.
Okay.
And
that 10 grand, I love that for a second. Okay, so you spent money on the business that was going to ultimately produce for you an ROI, right? You know, and that's, folks, and again, velocity on your money is so unbelievably important, right? Doing that right now, right? Yeah, inflation, folks, is it's in the double digits. I don't give a crap what anybody says, right? Anybody who says it's at 8% when they're not counting food and energy, that's just absurd, right? So you're in an inflationary environment in the double digits, folks. You have to think about controllable rate of return. Where am I going to get high ROI that's going to outpace inflation on my dollar? The answer is in your business, right?
Absolutely.
Or strategically into investments where you have controllable risk. Do you have any control of the market? No. Right? You don't. You can do research, but that's about all. You don't have anywhere near to the degree, the level of control that you do doing exactly what Henry did, which was to double down and reinvest in his business. First of all, systems and softwares. That's so unbelievably critical. Now, Henry, when you did that, did you have an ROI in mind when you reinvested back into those systems? I want to get into coaching in a minute, but
sure.
Into those systems, did you have ROI in mind?
I mean, the whole thing in my head was just I need to become more efficient. Because what I'm doing is incredibly not efficient. And there was a couple systems that I remember that my the woman that I had worked for had that I knew I needed. So I invested in those systems, got in the coaching. And it's funny, the coach, the first thing he said to me is like, hey, there's a conference right around, like, 2 days from today.
Right.
Like, I signed up. He's like, hey, there's a conference that we're hosting 2 days from today. You should go. I'm like, thanks for the heads up. So I ended up going to the conference. And I ended up seeing a couple of these people on stage, a bunch of guest speakers.
Yep.
And there was one guy that I just immediately was just like, I got to work for this guy. I was like, this is the new mentor that I need, right? Yep. And within a matter of 2 weeks or so, I was working for him. And I hounded him right after he got off the stage.
Yeah.
Hounded him, and I got to work for you no matter what it costs. Working for him, I mean, changed everything because he taught me everything about sales. Because I knew about management from the previous job.
Yep.
I didn't know about selling.
Yep.
And very different world. Very different world. And I became a master salesperson. And, I mean, look, a lot of what real estate is as an agent is cold calling. Communication, a lot of, face-to-face. I mean, this is still sales.
Yep, absolutely it is.
Right? And a lot of people forget that they're a salesperson first in this business.
Yep.
So, thankfully, he taught me how to sell. Problem with that one was that I signed a terrible contract with him.
Oh.
So I had grossed about $300,000 in gross commissions, and I made like $40,000.
Oh.
So, but listen, I got a great experience. That was valuable.
Yep.
And the problem was, I quit real estate because I just kept getting screwed over, hated it, thought it was the industry. Started like 7 different businesses. And e-commerce, drop shipping, media agency. I wasn't as good as some people here, but I started everything out because I was chasing the money.
Yeah,
I was chasing the money.
Yeah,
which I don't recommend. And what ended up happening was that with my last dollars, I had invested in Tony Robbins. Actually, went to a Tony Robbins event.
Which event? UPW.
Went to Unleash the Power Within.
Nice.
Unleash the Power Within. Great event. And sat front row, so excited. Last dollars. I mean, I had nothing in my name at this point.
Yeah.
And I put the next thing on credit card, which was coaching with him, with one of his business coaches. And
in the Platinum Partnership?
Not Platinum.
Oh,
no. He has like a 6-month program or something that I did.
Got it. Yep.
And in January 2018, not that long ago, again, I'm $70,000 in credit card debt, 550 credit score, no money, maybe $2,000 in my name. And my coach says to me, he's like, listen, kid, you got CEO in your Instagram handle. Doesn't make you anything. You have a bunch of different businesses with no money. He goes, what successful entrepreneur that you're following today, at 20 years old, 22 years old, whatever it was, has 5 companies and became wildly successful? Like, who do you know? And I was like, not a single person. He goes, exactly. Like, you're not going to be the first one. He's like, you have to focus on one thing for a decade, and you'll probably be pretty successful.
Yep.
You know,
you can turn decades into days. Bro.
Exactly right.
Yep.
And literally within that phone call, I remember I'm sitting at Panera actually, with my buddy, and I remember that call like it was yesterday, because in that moment I knew I just had to be I knew it was real estate. I just had to do it for myself.
Yep.
And
because you had a passion for it. You knew that you had a passion for it.
Yeah,
right?
I had a passion for it. I mean, my family's a massive investor in real estate, and my grandfather, God bless him, 94 years old, still cranking, and
that's awesome.
Taught me a lot. And so I knew in that moment that it was real estate. And the funniest thing was, the next day I go to the office, the real estate office, which I hadn't been to in 6 months, 8 months, because I had quit. I show up, and they're having this huge company meeting. I had no idea. There's 150 people in this place. Okay, I show up, and I'm given 4 awards for the efforts that I had done the year before.
Get out of here!
I swear, because of all the
You had
business.
no idea.
I had no idea, but it was all the business that I did with the team.
Yep.
And that I had produced. I didn't get paid the way I should have.
Right.
But it was
right.
it was just it was social proof.
Yeah.
For myself to say I'm in the right place.
Yep, absolutely.
And I got
God works in very calculated
it was
ways,
so
brother.
it was so weird thinking about it.
Yeah.
And 2 3 young guys came up to me, just like I had come up to that guy who was standing on stage saying, "Hey, I want to work with you. Can you mentor me?"
Yep.
And that's where I got my start in February 2018.
Unbelievable. Folks, we are Infinity X, stage and microphone, human excellence, Henry Eisenstein. I'm eating this up because it's like you're telling my story, brother. I swear to God, you're telling my story in so many different ways. My world changed in March of 2019 when I put $5,000 on a credit card and I went to a 3-day immersion with Sean Callaghy. And it changed my world. Now, was Sean speaking on the UPW stage or on Platinum Partnership at that point?
Not at that time.
Sean heads up Unblinded, right?
Got it.
And is a peak performance coach. He's one of the most successful attorneys in the country. 125-person law firm. He's amazing.
Unbelievable.
And he brought brain science, very similar to what Tony brings, and 3 days changed my life, not necessarily just from the standpoint of what the brain science was so good, but it was proximity. It was proximity to people that were thinking and doing things differently.
That's why I always find it fascinating when people can't invest a couple $1,000 in themselves.
I know.
I'm like, you blankly signed, like you went to college, right? Yes. I'm like, okay, well, you blankly signed on a dotted line to take over $100,000, $200,000 worth of debt.
Yep.
You have no ROI on. You won't spend $5,000 or $10,000 investing in yourself with somebody worth like that kind of money.
Yeah. And the ROI that you can produce,
it's unbelievable.
You can't be calculated.
That's why I'll keep spending it.
Yeah. Yeah,
because it's an infinite return.
And that infinite return, by the way, that's where you and I are going to do work together too, and we could really identify some stuff because we create higher velocity
100%.
on that, dude. That's very, very good. So let's get into now where you're at now, right?
Sure.
So you had the epiphany, right? You had the epiphany. You got the coaching. You got the right coaching, right? You're in the right mental space. You get back at real estate. What happens next? 2018, right?
Yeah, so I basically put my head down like I did for my friend who believed in me at the beginning.
Yep.
And 100-hour work week, 7 days a week, every day, all day, and just cranked on the phones, cold calling.
And who are you working with at this point?
Company-wise?
I know who you're with now.
So I'm by myself. I just have a team myself.
Yep.
I was with Keller Williams at the time.
Got it.
And it was me and 2 young sales guys, and all we did is all day, every day. I mean, I still remember we're in a huge common area with a couple desks.
Yeah.
And we just had our laptops just cranking away on phones, and just literally just like ignorance on fire.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like that. Seriously, without any other way to put it. Right. I mean, ignorance on fire, making hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not like 1,000 sales calls a day.
Yep.
And just cranking through it. I mean, listen, my first 6 months was rough because I'm building a book.
Sure.
Right. And,
sure.
In real estate, the sales cycle is 90 days to 6 months.
Yep.
So took me about, somewhere between 4 and 6 months to make my first 10 grand. By November of that year, I'm making 20 a month. By December, it was 50 a month. And I never looked back ever.
And you've never looked back. Did you say 50 a month?
50 a month. 23 years old, making 50 grand a month.
My man. What did it feel like? What did it feel like when you're at that trajectory? Were you just like, I'm getting hungrier and hungrier and hungrier? Or
yeah, it wasn't even about the money anymore.
Tell me more. Tell me more, because a lot of people get big check-itis. You know what I mean? They get that big check, and they're like, "Ooh, I'm going to take 6 months off." You know?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It gets really tempting when you get some big checks.
Yeah.
Especially with a fiance and a dog now. It gets really tempting. We travel way too much now, but it's just, it's different. I think that certain people look at money differently, and for me, it was never about, the check now.
Mm-hmm.
It was always just about where am I going to be at 30, 35, 40, 50, and what my potential is.
What was it about your strategy that was different, if anything at all, when you're at $50,000 a month versus when you were, struggling to get that first $10,000?
Yeah, I think the difference, most specifically, is relationship building when you start making.
Yeah.
When you start making 20, 30, 40, 50 a month, because you can do that making sales calls.
Yep.
If you want to go bigger, it's all about relationships.
It's all about so let's speak into that space a little bit. So
Sure.
who were the strategic alliances and relationships that you needed to build?
I love investing in real estate. So a couple of key investors that I ended up doing 100+ deals with.
Okay.
Changed my life. And
did they have constant access to leverage and liquidity that was important for?
Yeah, I mean, they taught me everything about investing in mostly single families, but they, more than anything, they just taught me how to analyze deals, which was the most invaluable information I could ever make. And I made them millions. I mean, I made hundreds of thousands of dollars from them, if not $1 million or $2 million.
Yep.
But I made them millions, and but they gave me an education, and I got paid to get the education. Best of both worlds.
And what markets were you buying in? Were you buying here in Jersey or
everything in Jersey?
Okay,
everything in Jersey.
Everything in Jersey.
Yeah,
incredible.
Yep.
Unbelievable. What were the demographics that went into the analytics on those deals?
So mostly we were in the middle range flips. So most of the deals were suburban neighborhoods, single families, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath. Try to get cookie cutter.
Okay.
The more specific you can be with your investment strategy, I think the more successful you'll become, especially in real estate. I feel like too many people try to deviate way too early, especially.
Folks, are you listening to this, by the way? Are you listening? Don't deviate from what you're doing. If something is working as well as it is, why would you stop, right? Why not double down on that, right?
Yeah.
And figure out ways that you can magnify that. That makes all the sense in the world.
And I really didn't deviate at all for quite some time until I started. I mean, I've been listening to Grant Cardone for so long.
Yep.
And then, it kind of just hit me differently about multifamily being a way better. Because what's interesting, especially over the last few years, making a lot more money than the previous few years, where now I actually have the decisions I have to make with it. Because when you don't have money, you're just all you're thinking about is how do I get money, and once you have money, you're just not only do how do I multiply it.
Right.
So the difference I feel like now is that I have an unlimited. Right now, I have an unlimited based on my partners. I have unlimited potential income right now. As in, I have enough resources. I have unlimited resources right now when it comes to money. I can raise capital pretty easily. Now the question is, what deals do I move that money into?
Yes.
And what the biggest thing that I want people to hear from this is you truly have unlimited resources, because if the deal is good enough, the money will come.
Absolutely.
And I never thought that way.
Dolph Taruf says the deal of the decade shows up every single week. It's a question of whether or not you have the liquidity to do it.
Yeah, right? But now it's just understand, any person listening, I don't care if you have zero experience, just getting your license today, or some person off the street, you have the ability to come up with unlimited resources. Obviously, you're one conversation away from having unlimited resources. Reaching out to us, you can have unlimited resources. Yep. I wish I thought this way, because there were so many deals that I said I couldn't make this happen because I personally didn't have the resources.
Yeah.
Right? Where now it's more about who do I know now who has the resources in order to take this down.
Yeah.
Because again, if the deal makes sense, I'm finding a way to close on it.
Yeah.
And I'll just get in the contract. I don't care.
So let's talk. Oh, God, this is so good. And folks, We Are Infinity X. Replay weareinfinityx.com. Take it and rewind it back. Watch this 3 or 4 different times, because Henry is just dropping knowledge out here right now. So today, right, you're with EXP today? Outstanding. And when did you migrate over to EXP, by the way?
About 2 years ago, right in the middle of COVID, June, July-ish.
Got it. And was that, from a timing perspective, was it intentional or was it...
Yeah, I mean, I got in when there was about 20,000 agents, and there's about 90,000 now.
Got it.
I mean, I wish I I kick myself all the time. There's always this investment that we wish we knew. If I would have moved 12 months sooner, I probably would have made an extra $500,000 just from the stock options alone.
Got it. But it's the only game in town model wise, as far as you're concerned. Or?
If someone's got a better model, I'm all ears.
Yeah, I keep hearing that. And now, and how big of a team have you built underneath you? Also.
So it varies day to day. I feel like real estate's a freaking revolving door at this point, but somewhere around 60.
Oh, fantastic, excellent. And everybody producing nicely, or
there's some, there's always a range.
Yeah,
there's always a range. The top 10, 20% make up all of it.
What's your preference? Is your preference to build and manage your team, or is your preference to build and manage your book?
Interesting. Nowadays, just based on what I'm doing, I'm trying to build one of the largest private equity companies in real estate. That's my main focus every day.
Speak into that, brother. So let's talk about that. Like now, private equity from a standpoint of raising capital and finding deals. I love that. So what? Look, again, inflation. Rates, right? People think when access to liquidity, they think, okay, let me go to get a traditional mortgage, right, or a loan, an SBA loan, or something of that nature, to try to get the access to capital. What are things that you're doing differently, right? And why do my people and people out here in our ecosystem need to pay attention to you?
Yeah, so again, the difference is relationships. I'm all about building relationships. I just had a phone call with a guy who's raised almost $500 million in the last couple of years, and just constantly having conversations with people of that magnitude. And again, I wasn't thinking this way even 18 months ago. And then had a conversation with one of my mentors, and he said, hey, listen, you better be prepared because the recession's coming. Yeah, this was 18 months ago.
Yep.
So I fired just about my entire staff. Very different. I had 12 employees at one point. And, all salaried employees. Payroll's 50 G's a month. It was just disgusting. And completely changed my model. And what I learned was, over the last little bit, was everything that I desire to do, I'm one conversation away from being able to achieve it today. It's not a 20-year thing.
Yeah,
I'm literally one conversation away. It's just who knows that person. Yeah. And I don't need to know. It's just who do I know in my ecosystem who knows that person. Right. So it's all just about who I know. And so a big part of the last 6-ish months is just getting around higher level people. Higher and higher and higher level people.
What do you notice about their thought process, their thinking, their activities that are different than the people that are what we would consider maybe median level people? What are they doing different?
So I'll say in two ways because I think this is so freaking fascinating. So Grant Cardone has always talked about don't ever listen to a single-digit millionaire. Okay?
Yeah.
Which is
true.
Here's the thing. Yeah. I didn't understand that at first.
Yep.
I can understand the concept. I didn't truly understand that. And then I started speaking to a couple single-digit millionaires versus people who were worth 50, 100, 200, 500 million. And when you're speaking to somebody who, again, a couple $1 million, they are incredibly cheap. They're hoarders. Hoarders. When you're speaking to somebody worth 100 million, all they talk about is how to consume, like how do they grow, how do they go bigger, expansion. Everything's expansion. Yep. And it's such a friggin' different mindset. Listen, my grandfather, God bless him, built an empire, silent empire, kind of like very deceiving. You'd never know it. And the man won't, listen, this guy's got a washer dryer that are older than my parents in his house. Yeah. And funny enough, the washer broke, okay? 50-year-old washer finally went out, okay? He bought just a brand new washer, not a new dryer to match it. But just
I love it.
It's just like when you speak, man. It is that mindset, and it's the things that you will hear from somebody who has again 100 million plus or whatever the number is, right? You need to get around these people because the people who are single-digit millionaires will confuse you. They will confuse you. And again, it's fascinating because making 50 G's a month, 100 G's a month, or whatever. When you start making that. You don't feel the pressures of that money until you truly have, several $100,000, if not $1 million plus in your bank account, where now you have innate decisions about the money that you have sitting with you.
Sure, of course.
But I didn't feel I never felt that question of that cheapness or stinginess, right? Whatever you want to call it, right? The frugalness. I never felt that, or the constriction, or the scarcity, like I have felt now with the amount of money that I have in the bank. and it's just different. Because now it's like I never had felt like, why are these people so scared all the time? I never understood that. But now, like, when you start having that kind of money in the bank account, you start getting kind of worried. Like,
it is so easy to retreat to a scarcity mindset.
Yeah,
with
and it's
that.
like
I
a constant
get
reminder that, like, again, I love Grant. I mean, like, everything I've done is basically modeled after this man. I love him to death. And but it's just like, literally, it's just like money's digits in a bank account. It means nothing. The digits. It absolutely means nothing.
Yep.
Cash flow is everything. So all I do every day, all day, is just look for deals where I can, and listen, I'll take
Create
partners on.
additional vertical cash.
Vertical cash, exactly.
Absolutely.
That's all we look for.
Yep. Folks, we are Infinity X Stage and Microphone. You are getting an education and a half from Henry Eisenstein. I mean, guys, we're talking about mega producer EXP, megapreneur, building one of the largest private equity, conglomerates that that New Jersey has. I'm just stepping.
One day.
Where people are going to be talking about you for a very, very long time, my brother. And
appreciate it.
Like, kidding me? This is. So, let's talk about the here and now. All right. So, if I wanted to, right? If you could step out of yourself now and look at 20-year-old Henry, right, for a moment. What are some things that you would be telling him to do in the market environment that we're in today, right? Where we have inflated real estate prices, we have high interest rates. Like, what are some things that you would suggest him to do now, today, that nobody told you to do?
Yeah, again, this I've been beating a dead horse, I feel like, but the two things is ignorance on fire when it comes to making your calls.
Yep.
And relationships. I mean, there's just nothing. People can tell you that Facebook ads are more important, this is more important, or whatever the case may be, but nothing is more important than the people in your life. I wouldn't be where I'm at right now without any of the relationships I have. Yep. You are your relationships. Your net worth, your network is your net worth. You've heard it 100 times, but again, like, pay attention to it and just go truly. I mean, listen, like, I'm even to the point where, like, if I went back, I'd be like, listen, go caddy at the most successful golf clubs. Like, don't even worry about the money. Like, you could live broke.
Yep.
Live broke and just go be
So
around
true.
the most successful possible people that you can.
Catch a couple loops at Sleepy Hollow Country Club, baby.
Seriously.
You know what I mean?
No, but I'm
no
not kidding. Because, like, again, you're just one
absolutely.
freaking conversation away from that person. I mean, again, the investor that I had worked with all those years was a cold call. It was a cold
Of
call.
course it was.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course it was.
But it was
because that person stepped into your world at the exact time that they were supposed to step
Exactly
into
right.
your world. And so I fast forward the clock 5 years. What's Henry's world look like?
in 5 years from today.
Yeah.
Just continuing to build the private equity company. Again, I'm probably, we're on track to be somewhere around 100 million in assets under management in the next 3 years, if not sooner. And
Can people invest with you?
I mean, I say the best way to kind of work with me is bring us deals.
Got it.
Bring us deals. If you've got a great deal, multifamily or warehouse space anywhere, I wouldn't say in the country, but it's specifically New Jersey, South Florida, Texas, key areas like that, reach out to me on social media or anything like that.
Folks, by the way, I want to say I have to put this out there. This is not an endorsement of anything or anyone in particular, but Henry's up to some interesting things that are out there, so you want to check him out. How do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, social media. Google my name, Henry Eisenstein. Check me out. I'm everywhere. Hopefully you can't not see my face.
Man
one
of the
day.
people.
That's right.
So you want to build out that private equity? You're at 100 million. You said
100 million private assets under management.
Where do you see that growing to?
I want $1 billion. I want $1 billion. But it's interesting because it's like I want to be able to do it with. I want to be able to show people that, like, again, it doesn't matter your upbringing, it doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter your parents, doesn't matter your anything. You set your mind to something, you can achieve it.
Folks, I got to tell you, every single week, shout out to Parker Russo too, because Parker put this together, right? And every week I have the good fortune of putting people onto the stage at Infinity X, and from my standpoint, when I want to feel inspiration, right? I think of Chris Crone, right? Our business partner. Chris, he motivates me each and every single day. Rob Gill, my partner, Rob. You want to get a motivation? Spend 15 minutes with Rob, right? He'll have you running through
That's
a
for
wall
sure.
like the Kool-Aid Man,
Sure.
But Henry, I got to tell you, my juices are so flowing with everything that you've shared with me tonight about your journey of overcoming personal struggles, which are, and I can identify with that in a major way in a lot of different ways. And I think a lot of people out there really, really did. And to see where you're at and to see your confidence level, that's what it's like a breath of fresh air for me, man. Is that it's confidence, not arrogance. And that is something, folks, you need to understand that as well. There is a big difference between confidence and arrogance. This is a confident entrepreneur right here who knows where he's going, right? Regardless of what's happening in the marketplace right now, recession, no recession, people who are destined to build out bigger things are going to do that. Right? That's what's going to happen. Henry is going to have $1 billion under management in his private equity because why?
Because I said so.
That's exactly right. That's incredible.
I choose to.
What? Henry, we got about another 5-10 minutes here. Let's talk about the real estate market in general right now.
Sure.
Right. What trends are you seeing here on the East Coast? Are you maybe thinking about branching out into different markets? Like, what say you about things real estate right now?
Yeah, so real estate's probably, just like I feel like the economy in general is probably the most uncertain economy market that we've seen in history. It's just so uncertain. Anybody who says that they know what's going on, I just don't believe them, because nobody does.
Yep.
And right now, I think that, like we've talked about, I'm sticking to what I know. Great deals are great deals no matter what. And, as long as the numbers check out, even at a horrible worst case scenario. But, again, with this economy, I think that we're going from a seller's market to a buyer's market in a matter of moments. I believe that, so negotiating and, we're going to have longer days on market. We're going to see that. I think interest rates are actually going to come down.
Interesting. Okay, so tell me a little bit more about that.
So in every recession, that they've shown that they typically interest rates will come down during just about every single recession. So I'm not exactly worried about interest rates super long term.
Yep.
I don't think we'll see 2% ever again.
No, I don't. I agree.
But listen, in the grand scheme of things, it was a gift from God to even if you bought anything during the period of time that we've had. If you got locked in a 2% interest rate loan, I'm giving you a high five. You did the right thing. If you refied or whatever, you did the right thing. I just think that we're about to go back to, I wouldn't say normalcy, but a new normal. Like this is what we've seen over the last 24 months has been BS, fake, not real.
Mm-hmm.
It's given people a false sense of how an economy works, which is just not accurate. But I think that people really need to just be cognizant of being able to adjust and shift always, because nothing stays forever.
Right.
Good markets come. Good markets.
Yep.
The current. Everything's
it's the law
cyclical.
Of market
exactly.
cycles, right?
It's just like
I totally agree.
I've just I've learned to be very quick on my feet in this business. Very quick on my feet, and I've shifted a lot from residential to commercial.
Okay.
I've shifted a lot from investing for myself instead of with other people. Still with partners, but not just letting other people make all the money. Still being smart in those ways, and it's just a couple key shifts in this business. Like, you need to know where to shift, because there's a lot of people who I coach a lot of realtors, and a lot of them when they're brand new, either they're fearful to work with sellers because of experience. They don't know how to work with sellers because they've never done it. Working with sellers can be a little bit more daunting than working with a buyer.
Right. And
however, the last 24 months I've been telling everybody, like, if you're not working with sellers, you're going to die in this business. Because imagine working with, think about it just mentally. If you want to work with 100 sellers listing their homes or with 100 buyers trying to find a house right now, you'd go nuts.
You'd go broke.
Exactly. You would never get a house accepted, an offer accepted. That's just what happened to so many agents.
Because they were repping the buyers and they weren't actually. Oh, okay, God, they didn't have the pre-existing relationships with the sellers. Is that what?
Well, no, it's just more like, listen, again, like, you got to build a book, right, or relationships to get the referrals, and it's just like, if you're not focused on finding seller clients, you're not going to build a business. It's sort of like pushing a rock uphill to work with a buyer. Why would you do that? Right? You can easily just push a rock downhill. It's the same, virtually the same work. It's just a little bit different of a concept in regards to lead generation. So just focus on where it's just easier to make the same money. And so I've been telling everybody that, you need to focus a little bit more on sellers the last 24 months. Now, for the first time, I'm finally starting to shift the conversation and being like, listen, this is going to be a really good opportunity over the next probably 6, 12, 18 months. I'm not saying today, but be prepared. We're going to be shifting back to what things were 3 years ago before COVID. Where a buyer's market is a little bit more prevalent. Or at least I would work again, when I was, closing over 100 homes a year, we're looking at, 40% of my business was buyers. It's a huge part of the business. You know, but the last 24 months, if you worked only with buyers, you're screwed.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, because I've heard of stories. I've heard of stories where people have lost out on 40 bids.
No, it's the truth.
40 bids. I mean,
It's
that's
the
like,
truth.
I mean, and I know that COVID shifted so much. I know people were, going to be working from home, and that, they wanted to double down on the real estate that they were already in, and they wanted to stay in the low interest rate environment if they had that. No, but from a go forward perspective, as we shift into buyer's market, what's advice? If we shift, but I think when is more of a way to put it out there. But if we shift more into a buyer's market, right, and you're thinking about selling your home, what are some strategies that you would put out to someone who actually wants to, is going to list their home on the market, and
Don't. Don't.
Yeah.
Rent it out.
Rent it.
Keep it and rent it. Keep it and rent it. This would be a really silly I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I mean, like, there's a difference of having to sell versus need to sell.
Yep.
If you're in a need to sell, do your thing.
Yep.
If you're just in a fashion of just want to capitalize on a market, this is not the right time to sell. I sold at the peak of the market a couple of properties that I never thought I would ever sell. Just because, again, I don't think the market will ever touch those numbers in certain areas for a long time. So I might as well just move the capital. But again, if you're a family right now or a young couple, I mean, keep the house. Keep the house and rent it out. You're probably the rental market's unfreaking believable right now.
Yep.
Good luck getting in a rental apartment. Like I just listed a property on Facebook because I'm not even done with the apartment yet. I had like 37 people reach out in a matter of an hour about an apartment.
Sure, of course.
And that market's not going away. So don't sell the house. What I would even tell you to do is pull out as much equity as you possibly can and rent it out for the amount that will still cover everything. Take that money and invest it.
And deploy it
invest it,
and deploy it into.
But listen, I'm biased on real estate clearly.
Yeah.
I don't know stocks that well. I don't know crypto that well.
Yeah.
I know real estate.
Controllable rate of return. Real estate business, right? And again, we're not making suggestions here, folks, but
this is what
history
I'm doing.
doesn't repeat itself. It does rhyme sometimes, and success does leave clues, right? So
yeah, and listen, I mean, again, if you know those markets better, invest in that. Whatever you know, invest into it. I invest in yourself, and
invest in yourself.
and buy some real estate because listen, I think that we're going into an incredible time to buy. I always look at it; it's always the right time to buy a good deal. So take your capital and find some people who have more money than you and go ham. I mean, buy as much as you can. Because listen, I just think that the one thing that I keep hearing from the most successful people that I ever speak to is just, I wish I bought more real estate when I could. Every single person's always kicking themselves about it.
Never, ever fails. I am 150% with you. That's what Chris Crone, right? I hear him say it all the time, is that if I could go back to the last recession, the mistake I made is I didn't buy
enough.
More.
Exactly.
I didn't buy enough, you know? So parting shots for the folks out there, brother.
Stop waiting. Stop waiting. Go after it. Listen, the only difference between the kid who I used to be, the statistic that I could have been, was I made a decision and I went for it. That's it. And the consistency of just staying at it.
Where do they find you on social media, my brother?
Again, Google my name, Henry Eisenstein. I'm literally everywhere. Follow me on YouTube, DM me on Instagram. Love to chat with you guys. See how I can bring you some value.
Let me tell you something, Henry. You have been an unbelievable partner here on Infinity X this evening, folks.
This is awesome.
This has been awesome. This has been awesome. I see you in my future, by the way, my brother. And I got to tell you, folks, each and every week we are working so hard to bring value in areas that are relevant to you, whether it's building business, entrepreneurship, real estate, markets, areas where it's relevant to you. That's what we're seeking to put on stage each and every single week. This week was no different. We are infinityx.com. We are Infinity X YouTube. This has been Henry Eisenstein. And guys, again, if I could just leave you with one piece that Henry put out there and that I can't hammer home enough is, whether it's a bear market or a bull market, there is no such thing. There is today, right? There is today's market. There is an opportunity that exists for you to deploy capital, to build wealth, and to double down on yourself, whether the market is going this way or the market is going that way. Link in our bio. We are infinityx.com. We would love to have conversation about how we could help you if you're an aspiring entrepreneur. Give you a stage and microphone. Build out a business. Get higher velocity on your dollar. passion is something that we're going to continue to bring each and every single week. And, Henry, again, thank you so very much for this evening.
Of course.
Folks, we will see you next Tuesday on another edition of We Are Infinity X.